This place, this oasis, we've been here before, but it's not how we remembered it. A sickness has infested these walls, but I believe with your help, we can put a stop to it.
Welcome, fellow gamers, to another game review. 2 things I learned surviving the unforgiving brutality and madness of Total Chaos. 1. Sometimes the constant fear of death in a video game forces you to slow down and truly appreciate the detail and craft the developers put into the world they built. And 2. I may still be a big chicken in scary games, but Total Chaos's addictive game loop of craft what you can, fight defensively, explore every dark corner kept me engaged until the very end. Originally created as a Doom 2 mod, Total Chaos feels very personal and well thought out, save a few glaring issues translating from the PC to a console, and a bit of a rushed final act, but we'll get into that a little later on. Any small issues I did have with the game paled in comparison to what turned out to be an awesome experience and a masterclass in creating a sense of foreboding dread and intrigue over my roughly 12-hour playthrough. The story starts with an opening scene of our protagonist on a boat in a storm. We see crashing waves, lightning, an unexplained mining pickaxe hits the window, and finally a flash of someone with us on the boat before we transition to the docks on a fictional, abandoned mining island, Fort Oasis. We are given no initial direction, but instinctively begin to wander the shoreline until we find a way inland. Now a decaying, monster-filled labyrinth of paths, tunnels, towns, and mines. Over 9 chapters, surviving only with what we can find and craft, we get to experience a truly unique and terrifying descent into madness. And though I still had a lot of questions, I feel like I know kind of what this was about, and why our realities by the end become so fractured. There are themes of loss, abandonment, fragile mental health, disease, and tragedy. The atmosphere isn't the only heavy thing in this game.
I don't need them. I don't need anyone.
Within the first chapter, we are introduced to another main character in the game, a mysterious voice on a radio who promises to help us if we follow his direction deeper inland.
You've come here to find something.
When you are constantly challenged to survive and terror builds without ever seeming to relax, the voice becomes kind of a great idea. Part guide, so you never felt that you were completely lost and what to do next, and part companion, so you never felt that alone and helpless. I found myself really relieved when that crackle of the radio would happen and the stranger would start to talk to me. Along the way, we also pick up plenty of clues on what happened on this island, from letters, photos, cassette tape recordings. However, it's not until a few chapters in, when we meet our second mysterious character, Tyler, that we start to wonder exactly what happened. Who should we really be believing?
That was a close call. You alright? Listen, that voice you've been following, that one on the radio, I'm trying to reach him, desperately. All I want is for him to come home, away from this god-forsaken place. And I trust you will.
Total Chaos could have just kept with gameplay and finding lore on bits of paper, but introducing superb voice acting characters really made me feel connected to finding out what happened and gave me confidence to survive a little bit longer. The farther you get into this island, towards the Fort Oasis center, and eventually into the mines, the more twisted and strange things get. Monsters are joined by visions of what almost felt like a living version of hell, and a madness mechanic starts to underscore the game's central themes of mental illness and fear. Madness distorts your view of the world, makes physical changes to the level design, opens up secret tunnels and shortcuts. It warps the screen almost like tunnel vision, and introduces new monsters to terrify you. Monsters you may want to avoid if you're attempting to go for the true good ending. The only way to get out of this state of madness is to find the next fresh save point, which returns the world to normal. In this variety of gameplay and quality graphics with fantastic atmosphere, music, and voice acting that drives the story forward, there are some truly memorable areas, like the half-submerged prison, monster-filled police station, the scariest library I've ever experienced, and the catacombs, where you're forced to use only a lighter and then flares underwater to see where you're going. Filling these amazing zones are some truly terrifying and ruthless monsters, including a few standout bosses who are more about outwitting than outright fighting. I won't spoil them for you, but my hands were sweating and my heart was pounding more than once. Total Chaos knows it's a difficult journey. So much so that if you decide to get the hell out of this place right from the start of the first chapter and simply get back on your boat, you'll actually trigger the end credits and achievement for leaving early. And honestly, after making it to the end, that seems like a pretty good alternative, because this game tests you in ways you do not expect. You can feel the Doom 2 engine it was built on, and the movement and the combat. However, the pacing is what really sets this game apart from its source code. I was expecting something more akin to a reskin of a fast, chaotic gun battle, with new enemies and maybe some new weapons. However, Total Chaos is truly its own thing. Instead, you are forced to slowly creep around with little health and resources to heal. Try your best to avoid being hit, even losing speed and getting hungry if you try to carry too much in your bag. This means very quickly my playstyle had to shift from a rhythm of get a few hits in, or get a charge attack hit in, then dodge back and wait for your stamina to recharge while avoiding some aggressive attacks, and then repeat. There is a parry action, but to be honest, I find in most first-person games the parries rarely work well, and I found it was better to just constantly move around and back up to avoid attacks. Combine this more defensive combat style with crafted weapons that quickly break, and you have a strangely addictive and satisfying game loop that almost felt strategic in how it functions. In fact, more than once I found I was using multiple saves and replaying segments in order to try to come out with more inventory or better health for the next area. And more often than once I really got stuck and had very little healing or weapons, forcing me to reload an older save. Along the way, bursts of panic fighting and creeping around corners are broken up with some simple area puzzles, usually involving finding a key to unlock a door or working your way around an area to come at it from a different angle. This really helps mix up the experience. In fact, I can't say I've actually ever completed a Doom game since probably the first pre-3D era ones. And looking back, it's likely because I just got bored of the constant running and shooting pace. Total Chaos avoids that pitfall by making you play more defensively. All that said, it's not a perfect game by any means. Some of the systems felt like they needed to be optimized for console players. The biggest area being the crafting interface, which is really made for a keyboard and a mouse to use it well. Without that, you are clicking the direction buttons to find individual items, then click another button to add them to your crafting bench, and then another button to build once you have all the right items in your bench. And if you get it wrong, it's actually faster to back out and start over than trying to move things back into your inventory. Another frustration came from the difficulty spikes with awkward save points. I made the mistake of saving over a previous save instead of using one of my additional available save spots. This forced me to retry tough areas over and over again until I got lucky enough to make it through. All because I had not thought to have more saves spread out across the areas. This usually happened when either I didn't have enough healing or I was bleeding. The bleed mechanic is often the hardest mechanic for me to overcome in this game. You're constantly bleeding, you're losing health, and if you don't have bandages to heal yourself, you're gonna die. And if you have a bad save, you may not actually finish the game. In fact, I can see a lot of these spikes leading to a lot of players just not finishing the game if they don't plan their saves well and get stuck in a way where they can't do anything. And finally, the amazingly deliberately slow pace of almost the entire game is suddenly flipped on its head in the final 2 chapters, in what seems to be a bit of a bad game decision, meant to drive us to feel more of a climax maybe, or just feel like we're conquering a mountain. This happens partway through Chapter 8 inside the Fort Oasis Center, while looking for 3 parts of a special hazard suit that you'll need to get to the next area. Suddenly you're dropped into these gauntlet room moments, where you're locked in with whatever weapons and healing you managed to keep from the last battle to fight waves of some of the hardest enemies in the game. This change in pacing becomes even more noticeable in the final chapter, where you lose all of your previously collected items from the whole game and are suddenly given boxes of ammunition and a pair of guns. Change your playstyle to dodge, gun, run for other waves of more enemies. It's this sudden glaring change in the game's pace that felt unnecessary and kind of disorienting. For me, it became the first time I felt like I was playing something sort of like a Doom clone. The game still manages to throw in a few creepy moments in those final chapters, and even a bit of awe at the end, but nowhere near as effective or impactful as the chapters that led us all the way to this end. Despite these issues, the addictive game loop, excellent level design, and intriguing story and presentation kept me hooked, and made its shortcomings easily forgivable. The difficulty of the gameplay forced me to rethink my approach and slow down, leading to a more enjoyable and personal experience that I couldn't put down until the very end. At its core, Total Chaos is a dark tale, a sad story of people dealing with some serious mental illness, disease, and tragedy, wrapped up in a truly horrific, nightmare-fueled vision, unlike anything I've ever played. I don't know if my heart could take another playthrough, even knowing what to expect, in an effort to try and unlock that true good ending, but I'm also very thankful I gave it a try and stuck it out to the end. If you're looking for an amazing time with an indie game, Total Chaos is definitely worth your time to play. To see my full playthrough of this and other games, tips and game reviews, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Did you play Total Chaos? Did you like it? Did you make it to the end? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, folks.